My name is Joseph Duraney, and I am a consultant in cardiovascular surgery at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. And we are going to talk about a paper, an original article that was in the Mayo Clinic Proceedings, and the title of it is Tetralogy of Fallot in Patients Age 40 Years and Greater. So the story begins with tetralogy of Fallot, which is it's the most common cyanotic congenital heart lesion that we see. And the incidence of congenital heart disease is about 1%. So approximately 1 in 100 children are born with a congenital heart defect, and of those, this is one of the more frequent ones. It's an anomaly that consists of a hole in the heart, a ventricular septal defect, and then obstruction to blood flow to the pulmonary arteries, the lungs, so that the presentation is typically one of blueness, cyanosis. The strategies for taking care of this anomaly generally involve a complete repair where you eliminate the obstruction and you close the hole and you reestablish normal physiology. In the early days of cardiac surgery, the operation was often preceded by a palliative procedure, a helping operation as we would call it. And that usually was a shunt, a modified Blalock-Taussig shunt, which is what normally was performed. And while the occasion to do that in the current era still exists, it is very uncommon for that to be the case. Another interesting fact as it relates to this paper, which we're going to get into in a little more detail, is that there are now more adults with congenital heart disease in North America than there are children with congenital heart disease. And part of the reason for that is that operative corrections for the majority of anomalies really came into the picture in the 1980s. And as a consequence, the overwhelming majority of these children have now lived into the early years of adulthood and are being confronted with recurrent or residual problems that require attention. The most common operation that we do in the adult with congenital heart disease is pulmonary valve replacement. And the diagnosis that it is most commonly performed is tetralogy of Fallot. Now, this paper is unique in that it is a paper that reviews the results of the complete repair being performed in adulthood, middle to older adults, age 40 years and greater. Now, this is in stark contrast to the fact that in the current era, this operation is performed in the first year of life. So we are at one extreme of this diagnosis for the very rare patient that would sneak through infancy, childhood, and early adulthood without having a completely corrective procedure performed. Now, in this paper, which consisted of 52 patients, half of the patients did have a palliative procedure early on in life. Almost always it was a shunt of some sort. The early deaths were 6% of patients, and we consider an early mortality of 5% or greater to be in approaching the high-risk range. In contrast, when we do this operation in infants, we do this operation in the current era with an operative mortality of approximately 1%. Now, 6% may sound a bit alarming, but that was 3 of the 52 patients died. And one of the patients was operated on in 1966. And that was really during the initial era of cardiac surgery. The modern era of cardiac surgery really in congenital heart disease began in the 1980s. And while some techniques have been modified in the last 10 to 20 years, in the modern era, the risk in this adult population would fall into a 3% range or less. Now, the standard indications for surgery with this diagnosis are typically cyanosis, blueness, as we said earlier. When they have only been palliated or they have had an unusual situation where their circulation has been properly balanced such that they've not needed anything until these middle adult years, the symptoms, while cyanosis continues to be frequent, are usually more along the lines of dyspnea, shortness of breath, particularly with exertion. And then another finding noted in this paper was the presence of arrhythmias. Now, arrhythmias, as it turns out, particularly atrial arrhythmias, that's the most common complication in patients with congenital heart disease that have had operations earlier on in life. So it's not surprising that in this group of patients, arrhythmias occurred rather frequently. The operation involves closing the ventricular septal defect with a patch of some type of fabric or synthetic material, and then importantly, pulmonary valve replacement. Now this is in contradistinction to what we would do in an infant. In an infant, the operation involves closing the ventricular septal defect, and it involves relieving the right ventricular outflow tract obstruction. But there's an emphasis now on preservation of the pulmonary valve because we now have recognized that the most common late reoperation is the need for pulmonary valve replacement. Now, it's not always possible to preserve the pulmonary valve in an infant because it just may be too underdeveloped and it may be just too dysplastic. In the event that that occurs, we simply excise the valve and place a patch across that area and leave them without a pulmonary valve. And we know from now 40, 50 years of experience that the absence of a pulmonary valve can be tolerated for many decades, on up until, the 30s and 40-year age bracket frequently. This is not the case when you are doing a complete repair in an adult. There is much less tolerance for severe pulmonary regurgitation in the acute setting in an adult, and as a result, most of these patients had pulmonary valve replacement performed at the initial operation. And in those that did not have a pulmonary valve replaced, the need for early reoperation for pulmonary valve replacement was evident in 5 of 7 patients. If we look at the reoperations in this group of patients, there were 7 reoperations, 5 of which were for pulmonary valve replacement. 1 patient went on to develop congestive heart failure and ultimately needed cardiac transplantation, and 1 patient had a residual ventricular septal defect that required reoperation to fix this, as well as concomitant coronary artery bypass grafting. If we look at other issues during the follow-up period, importantly, the symptomatic improvement was found in almost all patients. Prior to surgery, the shortness of breath and dyspnea that was present was evident in the majority of patients, and we used the New York Heart Functional Class Association, and the majority of patients prior to surgery were in class 3 or 4, and at follow-up, the majority of patients were in functional class 1 or 2. Now, another important finding with this study is the late survival. And again, it's important to draw a comparison to the way that we do things normally in the current era. If we look at complete repair of tetralogy of Fallot in an infant, that is a corrective operation in the first year of life, the early mortality is low and the late survival is excellent. It is very similar to an age-matched population. That is not the case when surgery, complete correction, is done later on in life, particularly in this age bracket of 40 years of age and older. The late survival of 10 years is good, but it is substantially lower than it would be for an age-expected population. In this study, the 10-year survival rate was approximately 75%. And in this age group, the expected survival would be in excess of 90% for a patient without a congenital heart defect. If we look at the 10-year survival rate in unoperated tetralogy of Fallot patients, that would only be 25%. So while 75% is not what it would be if a patient had their operation in the first year of life, it of course is significantly better than if the patient was left alone and did not have surgery at all. So the messages from this paper are that this is a diagnosis which occurs frequently, and primary repair is recommended in the first year of life. The risk of surgery is low, and the late survival is excellent. The most common late reoperation is for pulmonary valve replacement, and that is for those patients that could not have the pulmonary valve preserved at the initial operation. And the emphasis of operation now in infancy are maneuvers to preserve the pulmonary valve so that we can offset this need for late reoperation. In this unusual group of adult patients, operation is feasible and it can be done safely. And if we look at the modern techniques of cardiac surgery, the risk falls into a lower risk category of less than 5%. And the lessons learned in this age group are that arrhythmias are common, so the need for concomitant arrhythmia procedures at the time of their corrective operation is more likely, and that pulmonary valve replacement should be part of the routine operation when it is offered in patients in this age bracket. Thank you for your attention.
We hope you benefited from this presentation based on the content of Mayo Clinic proceedings. Our journal's mission is to promote the best interests of patients by advancing the knowledge and professionalism of the physician community. If you're interested in more information about Mayo Clinic proceedings, visit our website at www.mayoclinicproceedings.org. There you will find additional videos on our YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Twitter. For more information on healthcare at Mayo Clinic, please visit www.mayoclinic.org. This video content is copyrighted by Mayo Foundation for Medical Education and Research.